Hi everyone, today let's do chapter number 3, two stories about flying from your class 10th book, First Flight. Whenever we have to do something for the first time in our life, we all have fear. The fear of uncertainty. That is because we doubt our capabilities. But do you know what conquers this fear? Courage. That is the only thing that can defeat this fear. The chapter that we are going to read today is also about fear and how this fear can be overcome with lots of courage and bravery. This chapter is divided in two parts, his first flight and the black aeroplane. In today's video, I'm going to take the first part, his first flight, which is written by Liam O'Flaherty. This particular story is about a baby seagull. The young seagull is afraid to fly because he has doubts on his own wings. So, even after a lot of attempts by his own family to motivate him, to pressurize him in different ways, by scolding him, threatening him, by keeping him starved, this baby seagull does not want to take that first flight. And then his mother comes up with a plan. Let's see what plan this mother comes up with and how this baby seagull overcomes or conquers his own fears and takes his first flight. So in today's session, we are going to read and understand this chapter. Then I'll summarize it for you, after which we'll do the significance of the title, the moral of the story, and then at last the question answers related to it. And before we begin the session, you all know we must know something about the author. Liam O'Flaherty was born on 28 August 1896 in Inishmore, Ireland. He was an Irish novelist and short story writer. He wrote about the common people's experience and from their perspective. He served on the Western Front as a soldier in the Irish Guards from 1916 to 1922. His first short story was The Sniper, and his first novel was Thy Neighbour's Wife. Some other notable novels are The Black Soul, The Informer, which was adapted to film twice, The Wilderness, The Assassin, Return of the Brute, Famine, Insurrection, and many more. Liam has written political and social satire, many short stories for theatre, children, and non-fiction categories. He died on 7 September 1984 in Dublin, Ireland at the age of 88. In this chapter, two stories about flying. Today we are going to do the first part, which is titled His First Flight, written by Liam O'Flaherty. Here, a young seagull is afraid to fly. A seagull is a seabird, typically medium to large bird, usually grey or white, and often with black markings on the head or wings. So today, we are going to read about this young seagull who is afraid to fly, and let's see how does he conquer his fear. The young seagull was alone on his ledge. Ledge is a narrow horizontal shelf projecting from a wall or here a cliff. His two brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge, brink means edge, and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him, so he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Even when each of his brothers and his little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings and flew away, he failed to muster up courage to take that plunge which appeared to him so desperate. Muster up means gather, Plunge means jump or dive, and desperate means terrible. His father and mother had come around, calling to him shrilly. Shrilly means loudly, upbraiding him, threatening to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew away. Upbraiding means scolding. But for the life of him, he could not move. There was a family of seagull with mother, father, two brothers, sister, and this particular young seagull who was really afraid of flying. The day before, his brothers and sisters, whose wings were even smaller than his own, had tried to fly. But this particular young seagull was fearful. He tried to flap his wings to take a flight, but something made him afraid. The cliff on which he was standing was miles above the sea, and he did not feel very comfortable with the idea that his wings will be able to support him. So, when he was fearful, he rejected the idea of flying. He bent his head and ran back into his little hole to sleep at night. Even when each of his brothers and sisters had done that, he failed to muster up his courage. He failed to gather enough courage to take a jump because that jump appeared so terrible to him. It was fearful. His mother and father came around to call him loudly. They scolded him. They threatened him that he will starve to death if he doesn't fly. But somehow this young seagull could not move. He was very afraid. That was 24 hours ago. Since then, nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim. To skim means to move lightly just above a surface, and here the surface is the sea. To skim the waves and how to dive for fish. He had, in fact, seen his older brother catch his first herring. Herring is a soft-finned sea fish, and devour it. Devour means eat. Standing on a rock while his parents circled around, raising a proud cackle, and all the morning the whole family had walked about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. Plateau is a tableland. Taunting means passing remarks to insult someone, and cowardice is lack of bravery. The sun was now ascending the sky. Ascending means moving up, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. Blazing means burning hot. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. Nightfall means just the starting of night. 24 hours had passed by since yesterday when he had made his attempt to flying and he was unsuccessful. The day before, he had watched his parents flying with his two brothers and a sister. They were trying to teach them the art of flight. They were teaching them how to move lightly over the surface of the waves and how to jump and catch a fish. His older brother had caught his first fish, and as he ate it, standing on that rock, his parents were circling him in order to praise him or in order to appreciate his efforts, and they were loudly telling him how proud they were. On this morning, when he woke up, he saw his entire family standing on the opposite cliff, and they were all taunting him. Taunting means passing remarks to insult him about his cowardice or lack of bravery. The sun was going up and it was getting very hot. He felt the heat of the sun more so because he had not eaten anything since the previous evening. Just because he was not learning to fly and hunt for his own fish, his parents and his brothers and sisters were very strict on him, so he hadn't eaten anything at all. And that hunger was making him feel all the more terrible. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge, and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Still, they took no notice of him. Pretended means acted. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Preening means making an effort to maintain feathers. Only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Thrust means pushed. Now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. To wet means to sharpen. The baby seagull now stepped slowly out to the edge of the ledge. Now he stood on one leg, hidden under his wing. He closed one eye, then he closed the other, and he acted as if he was sleeping. But all this was of no use because no one paid attention to him. His two brothers and his sister were dozing off with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening. Preening is an activity which is done by the birds to maintain their feathers or when they clean it. Only his mother was looking at him, but she was standing on a little high area of the plateau. She had a piece of fish at her feet and she was tearing that piece of fish. And every now and then she scraped her beak on the rock. Now, this is done by the birds, especially to sharpen their beak, and this procedure is called wet. Now, the baby seagull was watching his mother eating or tearing the fish, and he got very hungry. This hunger maddened him. He loved to tear food that way. He loved to scrape his beak and sharpen his beak. But what was the use? He was hungry, he could not fly, he did not hunt. The mother was just looking at him, trying to think of a plan. Now let's see what the mother does next. Ga, 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 he cried, begging her to bring him some food. Go, call, aw, she screamed back derisively. Derisively means in a manner showing someone that she or he is stupid. But he kept calling plaintively. Plaintively means sadly. And after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of a fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. But when she was just opposite to him, she halted, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. Then a monstrous terror seized him. Terror means fear and seized means caught. His heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a minute. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach and against his wings. The young seagull now begged his mother to bring him some food because he was hungry. But the way the mother seagull screamed back, it was as if she was trying to insult him by remarking that he was very stupid. But he still kept calling her sadly to give her some food. And after a minute, he was joyful to see that his mother was flying towards him. His mother had picked up that piece of fish and she was coming towards him. So he eagerly bent forward in order to catch the fish whenever she would come near, but that did not happen. Suddenly, the mother halted in the air. She was motionless, her wings stopped flapping. He was so mad with the hunger that he quickly jumped at the fish and he gave a loud scream. He jumped forward and he went downwards the cliff. He was terrorized, he was fearful, his heart stood still. He could hear nothing because he was in the air. The wind was touching his breast feathers and then under his stomach and against his wings. So, this was something magical that had happened with the young seagull. When he dived towards the fish, he actually fell down. But in order to save himself, he just spread out the wings, and that was the beginning of his flight. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. Headlong means with the head first. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. Soaring means flying. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Dizzy is an uncomfortable feeling of spinning around and losing one's balance. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upwards. Ga ga ga, ga ga ga, go call ah. His mother swooped past him. Swooped means dived. Her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him, screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curveting and banking and soaring and diving. Curveting means leaping like a horse, and banking means flying with one wing higher than the other. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. Commended means praised. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him, with little ridges moving over it. Ridges are a narrow raised band on a surface. And he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. Cawed is a sound that he made, and amusedly means with amusement. Now the young seagull could experience his first flight. His wings were cutting through the air. He was not afraid of falling down with his head first, but now he was flying downward and outward. He was no longer afraid. But yes, there was this uncomfortable feeling of spinning around or losing one's balance, but yet he overcame it. He then flapped his wings and he flew upwards. He was so happy, and the happier was his mother who came diving past him. Her wings were making a loud noise, and he answered to his mother with a loud scream. And then there came his father, his brothers, and sisters. They were all flying around him, leaping like horses. They were banking. Banking means it's an art of flying of the birds with one wing higher than the other. So the entire family was flying in the sky. This young seagull completely forgot that he was even afraid of flying. He overcame his fear of flying. And now look at him. He was flying, he was diving, he was soaring, shrieking in a loud voice. He was now near the sea, and he was flying straight over the sea. He could see that long, vast ocean under him. It was green colored, and there were small waves which were moving over it. He turned his beak sideways and he cawed. Cawed means made a sound in amusement. He was so proud of himself. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. Green flooring here refers to the surface of the green sea. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. Beckoning means calling him. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright. Fright means fear, and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise, exhausted by the strange exercise. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no further. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. A dogfish is a kind of fish, and it is named that way because they are in the habit of feeding in a group or pack, just like dogs. Sometimes they number in hundreds or thousands. Now that the baby seagull had learned how to fly, the next step was to catch a fish. So his parents and his siblings, that is his brothers and sister, were all on the surface of the sea, and they were all calling him with loud noise. So the baby seagull dropped his legs and he tried to stand on the green sea, on the surface of the sea. His legs were into it, but he was very fearful, so he screamed with fright and he again tried to flap his wings. He was scared because he might drown in the sea. But when he made another attempt, he was successful in floating over that surface of the sea. But he was tired. He was weak because he was hungry. He was exhausted. Around him was his entire family, his parents, his brothers, his sister. Everyone was praising him, appreciating him for the courage that he showed, for the attempts that he made, and he did not fail. And from their beaks, they were all offering him small pieces of dogfish. Dogfish is a kind of fish. Because this baby seagull was hungry, it was eating happily. And this is how the young seagull had made his first flight, overcoming the fears, overcoming the scare, overcoming the pessimism that he will not be able to do it. And he showed his family, the entire world, to all of us, that determination makes it happen. The seagull family consists of 6 members: mother, father, 2 brothers, sister, and this particular young seagull who is afraid of flying. The day before, this young seagull's brothers and sister had attempted to fly, but this particular young seagull is so afraid, is so fearful of taking his first flight. And that is because he doesn't have that confidence on his own wings. He feels that his wings won't be able to support his body and he'll fall down and die. The entire family, including brothers, sister, the parents, they all try to motivate him by calling him loudly. They all threaten him. The parents even tell him that he will be starved to death if he doesn't attempt or if he doesn't try to fly and hunt his own fish. But this baby seagull does not want to take his first step. Because he lacked that courage, he had to sleep hungry on that night. When this young seagull woke up the next morning, he came out of his hole. He thought that everyone would look at him and take pity on him because he was hungry, he was starving, he wanted food, but no one paid attention to him. His 2 brothers and the sister were sleeping. His father was preening. Preening means cleaning his feathers. and his mother was standing with a fish at her feet at a higher level on the plateau. The young seagull called out to her because he was hungry. He wanted that fish which was at her feet. The mother noticed that. But the mother had a particular plan. She took that fish and she flew near him. The baby jumped at her in order to catch that fish which was in her claws. But he couldn't. He missed. The mother deliberately did not come near the baby seagull. So the baby had to jump towards the fish, and when he jumped, he fell downwards. The moment he fell downwards, he was scared. He was fearful. And in order to save his life, he started to flap his own wings. The moment he flapped his wings, he noticed that he was now able to fly. At first, he went downwards, and then slowly he started going upwards. So what was the result? The result was that this particular plan of the mother had made him realize how to overcome the fear. She made him realize that this fear was only in his mind. He just had to take that first step to defeat that fear. And the result was that the baby seagull was flying in the air. And soon his entire family also joined him. They all praised him, appreciated him. They all gave a loud, shrill sound. And then the next step was an attempt to hunt for a fish. He tried to come near the surface of the sea, but again he was scared. He thought that he'll drown. But then after that first attempt, in the second one, he could float on the surface of the sea. And his family was so happy for him that they all fed him pieces of dogfish. They all appreciated his effort, and more than anything else, they appreciated that he overcame his fear. And this is how the baby seagull made his first flight. Now, after this summary, let's talk about the significance of the title. The story, His First Flight, is all about the attempt of first flight of this young seagull. He had a lot of fear. He was afraid because he doubted his own capabilities. The mother understood that he required a lot of motivation, and more than that, a very clever plan which could take him out of that fear zone, that phobia of flying. And because of that plan, he could overcome his fear, he could overcome the doubts that he had in himself, and he could take his first flight. So his first flight was full of adventure. It started with fear, but it ended with courage. And that is why I feel that this title, His First Flight, is the most significant and the appropriate one for this story. Now let's talk about what message this story gives us. It's not just in humans, but we find that it is also in animals, that we all are social beings. Just like we stay with our parents and we are always constantly under the guidance of them because they tell us what is right, what is wrong. Sometimes in a lovable manner and sometimes being strict. In the same manner, the animals also behave. And we cannot deny the fact that it is the parents who teach them and train them to hunt. So we sometimes feel that our parents are being way too strict on us. They are way too harsh on us, but it is all for our good. In a way, they are trying to teach us something. They are always thinking the best for us. Another message in the same story can be that fear is always in our mind. It's a mental thing. It's never a physical thing. So the moment you take that first step, the moment you feel confident in yourself, you can overpower that fear. And once you defeat that fear, everything is possible in life. So don't be fearful, have confidence in yourself, and have confidence in your parents as well. That is all in the session that I have for you. In my next session, I will come up with the second part of this chapter, The Black Aeroplane. Till then, take good care of yourself and enjoy. Bye. See you again.